Poor Lily.
You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
All right, hello everyone. How are you doing? Great to have everybody back with us. Blayne is right here, and I need to update your name because you were still our guest from last week. But yeah, no, everybody's back. Hello everyone who is listening to us on YouTube. Let's see here, checking out the stream. Looks good. I've already done the social on Reddit for tonight, and I have just sent out the Twitter information for the podcast for tonight. So if you would be so kind as to retweet those and share those social media messages for us, that'd be fantastic. Helps just spread the fantasy love that we have going on here. In case you're wondering, yes, I have already started our recording, so Ashley did not have to ask me tonight for that. Yeah, I guess the usual pre-game social stuff that we pre-pod social stuff that we get going has already been taken care of, so we'll be able to start. Look at Ashley coming to us from a remote location, showing off the Pacific Northwest.
It is my front porch.
Front porch. There you go. Wow, that's an amazing front porch.
My office is a brew room now, and it's hot in there. Spencer brewed beer this weekend, and so it is in the office now, so I ducked out.
Blayne, I'm sure, loves that. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. So we will get started with the usual intro for the podcast and for the podcast editing, and we'll just we'll go. So here we do it. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of Round 9. Finally. This episode is brought to you by averaging 1 point per game as an expansion team is excellent, but opening your home stadium and not getting a loss, priceless. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Wait, no. Actually, brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters of the MLS Fantasy Insider and MLSFantasyBoss.com. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLS Fantasy Boss, and tonight I'm joined by our usual co-hosts, Blayne Riffle and Ashley Savage. How are you all doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I'm great, and I'm happy Blayne's back.
And while you were gone, Blayne, Ashley still wasn't even able to say hello, thank you, first.
Yeah, I tried.
Andrea beat her.
Andrea cut me off. She must have known. She watches every episode. So,
She did it. So two quick updates before we start the show. One, for all of our Patreon supporters, I have gotten half of the swag in. That is the stickers that we do every year. A couple of special things, depending on your tier, that you'll just have to wait until you get the mailer. The main part, the masks that are coming this year, have not gotten in yet. I hope some of that gets cleared up soon. But as soon as I get all that in, I will send all that stuff out. And also, have to point out, Ashley coming to us live from the outdoors, showing off the Pacific Northwest. What?
Yeah, doing it. Like I said, my office got taken over by homebrew beer. Thanks. Shout out to husbands everywhere.
So if you are listening to us on the podcast, then please check out the YouTube if you want to see Ashley's front porch and the little setup that she has ready to go. Even got a little trophy there in the background, just to really get the ambiance. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, everyone who's joining us again tonight. This is a quick turnaround, so I'll hit this also at the top of the show. Games start tomorrow if you're listening to us tonight on the Monday live stream, and today if you're listening to us on Tuesday. So I'll be doing my best to get this edited as soon as possible. So I hope you are listening to this early on Tuesday. We're going to start with a quick recap back to the normal schedule since this round 8 2-week nonsense is finally over. But this is a massive double game week coming up, so we'll try to get through some of these takeaways really quick so we can touch on the players. Let's get started. How did your teams do? Blayne, you were a little bit of set and forget last week. How'd that work out for you?
Worked out really well. I was paying attention enough to make the switch from room to bush when I saw room wasn't playing.
Nice.
I was tipped off with that one that room was possibly in COVID quarantine, coming back, or safety protocols as they call it. I was in the car the first day, so I was able to make a few moves, and I ended up going with Shallowy. I know if it was brought up on the podcast last week with my picks, I believe I had 3 forwards from the end of the week, or from the second half of the week, and those 3 guys all paid, or 2 of those 3 paid off. I think it was Kamara, Zardes, and Rabin. Rabin didn't do well. I actually kept him and did not take Zardes. That's probably my only shortcoming of the week. But I put Shallowy in there, so I got that one instead. So it wasn't a huge trade off. Ended up, I know I was wavering, but I went with Heel for my captain. Forgot to change it to Zella. I said if they had a full strength lineup, I'd probably switch, but that didn't work. And then Zusi on the back line getting hurt in the first game kind of tanked my score a little bit. But looks like it's a 93 overall. Week rank 252, so that starts out round 2 of the second Champions League qualifier right outside the top 250, and I think I'm about 20 points out of making the top 50. Maybe it's 10 points out of making the top 50. So definitely stayed within reach on the first week, and that's really what you want to do, is just make sure you keep it close and keep that average up. And so I'm happy with it.
Very nice. Ashley, what about you?
Yeah, I made a couple roster viewing tinkers, which sometimes are smart and sometimes are not. I looked at that Nashville lineup and I faded Duncan, who was someone I talked about last week and talked Reid into over Gutman, and then he hit and I did not. I also started Zusi, which was not ideal. I ended the week with 87, which I would in a normal situation have been happy about, except for I feel like I dropped points by kind of leaving some players I shouldn't have left and then fading some players that I wish I'd kept. So, but moved up in overall ranking, still not where I want to be, but it was okay.
Very nice. Had some amazing scores that we're seeing in the chat right now. Patrick with 111, good for 3rd overall this week. Cameron with 100, who is gone to 12th overall. So not for the round rank, that's just overall in general. I had 101 points, so I felt pretty good about that. I know that I was kind of disappointed in some of the scores I saw from people who went in heavier with double game week teams than I did. And maybe you guys who got those big ones did more. I didn't check that out, but I was very pleased with what ended up happening. A lot of my players hit. A lot of it was Philadelphia. They didn't really come through for me. I had Coronel on the bench. I had Duncan. I had Busio. I had Shallowy. So I had a very strong bench. So I was able to just clear out my field to allow those players to come in. I ran with Hollingshead, who got me a 9. Pozuelo, I put in more. That was more of a last minute one. I think I shared that one on the chalkboard picks. I was looking at Pozuelo. I kept Zelarayan, I captain Heel, and I also went Vela and Montiero. So 101 points, won all of my head-to-heads. That was pretty amazing. A triple-digit score was definitely fantastic this round. I am trying to rebound off of a very poor round 8 start that I had, or sorry, round 7 start that I had for this qualifying chunk. So I was 68th overall for the week, and for the week rank and the overall rank, I'm in the top 200 now. So climbing back in, hoping that works out. I want to give a very special shout out right now to one of our Discord members, Leanne, longtime member. Her son, Asher, actually got the round rank number 1 this week. So Asherman, congrats for that amazing score. He is old enough to play the game, but young enough that I'm not going to tell you how young that he is, so that we all don't feel bad. So there is
congrats to Leanne for raising such a smart.
That's right, raising a baller right there. We said she could have come on, and she was like, "No, I got company over." And we're like, "Well, you all can come on." So, but no, she did not take us up.
Asher thinking?
Maybe got to get the guy, but no, big congrats to Asher. So congrats right there. Some quick general takeaways that you all have from this week, Ashley.
I was happy to see Vela contribute more. I am just getting really frustrated with 5 floor Atuesta. That's what I'm referring to him now, is because he just gets 5. But, I think we're all kind of hankering for that LAFC fantasy point so that we have become accustomed to. But I feel like he was just one step closer this week. RSL defense looks great. Columbus defense looks great. Krylak looks like he's hitting a real rhythm right now, which is great going into a double game week. And then, SKC did a really great job pulling a double before heading into another double. And so, the last double was a fake double, but still, they look to be getting guys healthy, getting people back before Gold Cup, rosters open up. So, and also Austin opening the stadium with Point. I'll take, right?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, they did. All right. Blayne, what do you want to add?
I didn't have a whole lot this week, other than the set your lineup and kind of check to make sure you guys are playing, but don't do a lot of tinkering. This season has been more predictable than I think we've ever had one. That's just going to be my takeaway. The guys you expect to get decent points are usually playing pretty okay. There will be a few duds here and there, but I'm hearing all over the place, and you see it on Twitter. Anybody who tinkers when they see lineups is generally dropping points. Go with your gut.
Someone who's doing that. It's
yes, I
happening
do.
Here in this room.
Yeah, so we're hearing that a lot. So go with your gut. I did a mostly set and forget week, and it paid off well enough. So that's my big takeaway. Is we're seeing a lot of consistency among the top players. The guys you expect to get good points and a good average are really coming through for us over and over again. So you might as well keep riding them. And the guys that do have a few bad weeks, their prices are dropping, so they're not pricing themselves out all the time either.
Yeah, I just have a couple that I want to mention. I agree with Blayne. This is a rough round to really have some solid takeaways from because of the impact of the international break. So, but a few things that I do want to mention, I guess 3, is I think we've all been getting burnt a little bit by Zilla Rayon so far. So there's some hiccup there with some of the Columbus play that I think if you haven't already caught on to it, just be aware of that going into this big week. Maxie Morales for New York City FC, back at full 90 for this last round. He came back a couple weeks ago, but he played a full 90, got a solid score. We'll talk more about him later, but I want to mention him. And then I also want to mention Julian Gretel. We've dropped his name several times before on the show. He's a sub 9 million player. He's been a pretty good value at times. He's had amazing scores for a lot of this season. But something I want to point out is if you look, he had 9 points this last round. I said amazing scores. For what DC's been doing, he's gotten some 8s, some 6s, and then got a 9 this last round. 4 of those points came from big chances created. That is probably not likely going to be a consistent stat that you'll see, but he got a point from crosses, a point from key passes, and then he ended up getting a point from a clean sheet, and minutes played. So his floor was really more around a 5, which seems kind of like an average of what he's playing. But I still want to point that out. If you saw, we've dropped his name before. You saw that big point total. Ola Kamara got a goal, so DC seems to be on. Maybe they've gotten the hang, gotten their game legs, some of their conditioning in. But a lot of those points came from big chances created. So I just want to point that out when you're looking at those stats and parsing what's going on. Other than that, like I said, rough round to really the 2-week thing, the faux double game week. It's rough to really get some solid takeaways, but I like everything that you guys have said so far. Thank you so much. Chat real quick before we move on. Did we miss anything? Eric mentioned that Lennon did well from Atlanta without getting a clean sheet. Yeah, that's when Lennon's one of those go-tos that we drop a lot, that we're hopeful to get points from, even if they have a rough time. Puzzuelo is back. I mentioned at the top of the show. Thanks, Rommel. He changes the attack. He got a good score as well.
And
So
Akinola's scoring, I think, bodes well for Toronto as well for just their attack, and he hasn't gotten on the score sheet in a while, too.
always Captain Heel is someone was mentioned by Eric. I don't know. He definitely had a solid score this week. I know Skylar Redpath captained Johnny Russell, who I think ended up getting him 22 points, so maybe he was a little bit better. But Johnny Russell back in the mix as well going into this double game week, so some names to consider. Lots of people are coming back. In general, some of these players were injured, and that's why we're pointing them out as they're back into the mix now. So when you're looking at their scores, they may seem lower than you may have expected, or they may have just gone out of your mind after it's been so much time.
Sure.
That's all right. Well, let's get ready for our housekeeping section for this massive double game week. Okay. So housekeeping for round 9. First, let's start out to congratulations to the MLS Fantasy Boss network of leagues, the MLS Fantasy Boss and Discord Classic Leagues. Brian Coral FC is still head. I think he was also winning last time. Reddit SD Ibar FC is leading, and then over at Patreon, Garth Butchers, one of our longtime Patreon supporters, is leading the Classic League. Over in the head-to-heads, there's still people who are tied. Our Discord head-to-head has a 3-way tie at 8-0-0. Our Patreon has a 3-way tie at 7-0-1. And our Experts Invitational, we have Skylar and Mito who are tied at 7-0-1 as well. I've come back, and I'm back into 4th place right there. I think we also had an MLSFI Derby this week in there. That was Ashley and Blayne head-to-head. So, and if you listen to the scores that we had at the top of the show, I think we know how it turned out.
Yep. 0 for 2.
Oh, it's rough.
Coming back to you guys.
It's rough. I mean, this is the experts league. Yes. We got to get a little bit of. We don't condone hazing. The podcast does not condone hazing, but we do condone trial by fire. So that's what it is. So so there's this little quick recap for this housekeeping. The number one thing is, as we already teased, games start tomorrow. They start Tuesday, June 22nd at 4:30 Pacific Daylight Time, which for those of you who aren't living in the Pacific Northwest, that is 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Yes, we can tell who prepped the rundown this week.
Sorry.
Yes, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time is when games start with Orlando versus San Jose. That is the only game next week, so why I stress that you need to make sure you have your teams ready by then. It's really only if you want Orlando or San Jose players. So more on that
both on doubles.
To come. Both on doubles. Yes. Speaking of that, it's much easier to tell you who is not on a double game week this week than who is, because it's everybody except Inter Miami and Colorado. So if you are looking for teams for your switcheroos, my preference is to look at Miami players because they do play the latest of those two teams. But you can easily make it work with Colorado, especially if you're not really concerned about doing the min-maxi with the switcheroos. But yeah, it's Miami and Colorado are the only two teams who are on a single, and why I am a champion of single game week teams during double game weeks. With this type of double game week, it's just a no. It is just a complete no. Nobody's on a bye.
Come at me.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah, nobody's on a bye, so be looking at Miami and Colorado for your switcheroos or your autoroos. And Blayne, injuries, call-ups, any updates for us?
Nothing. I did not have time to get through that today.
Okay, so the basic tip, pretty fair, is head over to Reddit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you
Head
off.
over to Reddit. Call-ups are still just Copa America and Euros.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, head over.
TBD.
Yeah, it's a TBD, exactly. Head over to Reddit. Just check out the list there. Christian does an amazing job with that. Head over to Reddit right now as well, because Christian is helping us out with the Discord poll voting so that we can get that article up as soon as we can. Everything's just trying to get out stuff fast this week. I can't promise it's going to be up before Tuesday just because of the quick turnaround, but he is helping us get that poll posted. So go over there, check it out, and vote for who you are looking at so we can make the Discord Discord rankings right there, which I apologize for having just I apologize for having an 8-month-old and not having all the time to be able to devote to that as I had imagined in my mind. But that's why the Discord team has stepped up, and thanks so much, guys. Yeah, that's everything that we have. So as I promised, we're trying to save as much time as we can for the actual player discussions and some some questions that we got from the Reddit and on Twitter. So let's move on to our player picks for round 9. All right, player picks for round 9. We're going to start out with most promising games. Ashley, what are you looking at?
I'm going to switch the order of which I wrote these things as to not offend Reid. So my first game that I'm excited about is Seattle-Vancouver. That's the weekend game. RSL, I think, is a little more work for the Sounders, but Vancouver not as much. Also to note, the Sounders have 2 home games in this round, and it is the first time they are welcoming back a full stadium. It won't be full because they're doing one of those, you can only sit in your seats if you're vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you have to sit in the vaccinated section, et cetera, et cetera. But you're going to see a lot more fans in the stadium this weekend, no social distancing, et cetera. And that is only going to benefit them. I'm also excited for NYCFC Atlanta. I think that has a lot of good fantasy implications. I know Atlanta's a little short-handed, so it's not going to be kind of the fun game that we've always seen. I'm excited for San Jose LA. This is a Cali Classico that I think is kind of going to get lost in the mix of a lot of crazy games this week, but there's a Cali Classico. And then I'm also really excited about Toronto-Cincinnati. I just think Toronto's hitting a fun stride, and since he's going to have to go on the road for the first time in a little bit, and I think it's going to be fun for not Reid.
No, definitely not. My best friend he and his wife went to the Cincinnati, Colorado game, and he messaged me, and he was one point, he said, it looks worse in person. And I was like, I know. So, but he and I are going to be going to the Columbus game on, on the 9th. So if you're going to be there, you might be able to find me. We'll talk more about that one when we get closer to it. Blayne, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, for one of the early ones this week, I like the Revolution at the Red Bull, or hosting the Red Bulls. I think New York is one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams. Sometimes they come out really good, sometimes they don't. I want to see this one. I just think New England's going to really run over them, and that's one of those games to pick on. And then I like RSL hosting Houston as well. I like what we've seen against RSL. I know Houston's defense is better this year, but I think this is going to be a real test for RSL, and I think the offense is going to get it done. And so I think you could look for some good points in there. Seattle in general this week, I think both matchups are great. Toronto hosting Cincinnati is another big one. I think that could make or break your week right there. And then I really like the Philly-Columbus matchup. I want to see these two defenses go at it. I think this could be a game where you can pick up a lot of defensive points right there if you're looking at stuff. There's been some talk in chat tonight about Santos being out for Philly. Columbus is kind of finding their form, but the offense still isn't scoring as much as you would expect. They're not getting the points from the normal spots. I don't know. I think this one could be one of those 0-0 draws, and you can pick up a ton of defensive points here. And I'm just excited to see those two teams go at it.
Exactly. I agree with Ashley. I think Toronto-Cincinnati is going to be a really good game to look at against Cincinnati, especially if you're looking at Pozuelo as a potential pick right there. Both New York City games, I think, have a great opportunity for points. We've talked about some of their players, and we will again shortly. Both Seattle games, both Sporting games. Those are some games that I'm really looking at. I think there are lots of good players, lots of good point potential from these guys. Looking quick at chat, New York City versus Atlanta. Yeah, SKC versus LAFC. All offense, no defense. Yes, Cameron. That's another one of the reasons why I like that game.
That's why I like it.
Very much, exactly. Ben likes both Union games. Orlando, maybe. Yeah, Eric, we'll definitely talk about that. in this next session right here. So let's move on to keepers, defenders, and clean sheets. The consensus picks that we have right now is it looks like Blayne hadn't put his people in. Yes. So Austin and Cleveland are the consensus goalkeepers. I think, as you were saying, Orlando, maybe Austin's a very fine keeperoo this week. You can do a keeperoo this week if you're just looking at these first games. So I think Orlando has a decent shot against San Jose, and that's a cheap keeperoo to put in there. And so I do think there are maybe, if you're going to go with Orlando, you're likely maybe, especially on the defense, you're probably looking at a switcheroo. Maybe there could be a conversation made for a midfielder. But I think definitely on the defense side it's going to be a switcheroo. On the defense side, we all have some kind of Seattle coverage, Lovitz and Tinnerholm, so we can go more into depth with our Seattle pick. But in general, we're all looking at Seattle. Blayne.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to throw a question in here. I don't know that it's been in the chat or it's been floating around. But this is one of those weeks with Seattle playing the double. Do you take a Seattle defender, or do you look a little more offensively because we have guys like Christian Roldan and João Paulo and Rui Diaz that all need a look? And given the rest of the stuff, are you looking Seattle defense here, or are you looking more Seattle offense? And I will go ahead and just answer that, and then we can pass it around. Everybody can take that question when we go. I'm not looking Seattle defense here. I've got Cleveland, but I don't have an actual defender in. I think they're a little too pricey for the week, and I would rather have two offensive players given the double home games. I just think it's a better benefit for me. But I like those defenders here, and if something really goes screwy with the lineup, I could see changing that. But right now, I'm playing a little different, and I want to see the lineup for Orlando. But I am looking at an Orlando defender, probably one of their more wingbacks attacking defenders. I think this is two matchups where they can really get something done. You're looking for a clean sheet against San Jose. Going on the road to Miami is going to be tough, but I think Miami's defense is so bad. If you get one of those attacking-minded defenders, you could be looking at a lot of attacking bonus points coming into that game. And Miami's been struggling to score. They're at home. Maybe they turn it around. I'm a little nervous about that, but I think you've got two good games here. One looking at clean sheets, one looking at offense. So I think you can go Orlando. I've got Fontas in there for Sporting Kansas City right now. He has been picking up passing points. In that first game, I know he got a 5 without the clean sheet. Not great compared to some of the others, but if they can manage a clean sheet in there, he's getting a ton of bonus points all over. So a clean sheet instantly pushes him closer to a 10 or an 11, and I think you take that risk in this one. And then obviously Tinnerholm, I think he's going to be a must-own this week. 2 home games, 2 somewhat questionable defenses. Too many attacking opportunities for him. You can't afford not to have him if he goes off, and I think this is a chance where he's really going to go off.
So Ashley, 2 questions to you.
Yep.
One being going with Blayne. If you're going to go 3 with Seattle, what are you doing with that defensive element? And then 2. Actually, I guess it's all kind of a combination. Just mostly, what are you doing with the defensive element? Is it going to be a 3 in the I will get this question out in a second. Is it going to be the defender or the goalkeeper? And if it's not the goalkeeper, then how is that going to affect your keeperoo?
Yeah, so I think that Cleveland is still at a good price, if that makes sense. Like, he's still cheap enough that I would throw him in just because. He gets okay bonus points. He's not like Andre Blake level bonus points, or Maurer, who's getting a lot of bonus points lately, or Stuber. But he's getting some bonus points. For me, the hesitation with Seattle defense is rotation. They don't have as many options to choose from, and both games are home games. But last time, Roldan, Brad Smith, Nuhu even, they all got rotated. Right now, going into this week, Wednesday, I haven't seen a firm update on Nuhu and whether or not he's going to play one or both or none. And Arriaga's still at international duty. So for me, based on what Schmetzer's done so far this year, Brad Smith is the most likely to get rotated. So that's someone that makes me a little nervous because Reid is going to play both games. I would be very surprised if he didn't. Joao Paulo, I think, also really likely to play both games. These are two Western Conference teams. I think that we really need the points, and the rotation's going to be less predictable because I think it's going to be less people than Schmetzer normally does. Schmetzer, like Vermees, tends to do a lot of big rotations. So for me, against these two teams, I think it's hard to pass up on a defender, considering that Seattle still hasn't let in a goal from the run of play. So I totally see what Blayne's saying here, but I think it's hard to pass up those shutout points. So I don't know. I think that Cleveland is a pretty solid shout, and we'll get to the midfield and strikers later. But it's kind of hard for me to pass on a defender right now, even though they're expensive. But with the type of points that they're getting and the opponents they're facing this week, I just think it's hard to overlook.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I know for me, I want some kind of defensive coverage for Seattle. The rotations I do find concerning, and getting someone like a Roldan or a Smith is essentially like getting an offensive player for Seattle at the same time. But I think Seattle has the best chance for a clean sheet with both of their opponents. So I want them, and that's why I kind of like the Cleveland pick, because he's just cheap. I can find other defenders that have some options. It is a lot to invest some of that money with some of those Seattle players. So Cleveland's an easy way into the back line for the team that I think is the best going forward, and for clean sheets, and that lets you work with that. If you're going to do that, I think you definitely have to look at not doing the defender and going with the goalkeeper. We had a question that came. I'll finish mine up and then end with this last question. The other players that I'm looking at.
Oh, I forgot to do it.
Oh, no, go ahead. You can go ahead and drop yours in.
I completely forgot to say that. I was just answering your question. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I also like Tinnerholm and Lovett. I'm considering Steve Clark, who got back from injury this week for Portland, instead of Austin. And then I do like Philly defense as well, probably Wagner. And then I just wanted to throw out kind of a cheap switcheroo defender if people need it. Tolkien for Red Bull is 4.0 and has played a full 90 in the last 2 weeks and did a really, what did he get last week? Last week he got 9 points at 4.0. So depending on what you need this week, I think that I don't love Red Bull's clean sheet chances, but 9 points, can't overlook that, right?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I like a lot of those same players as well that we were just talking about. I'm only going to go with 3 defenders. I think the play this week is to have 2 defenders as your switches, and then primarily look at your options from there. We'll talk. I'll just tease. We'll talk about it twice. I don't think that this is a round for switcheroos. I think this is a round for autoroos. You can do a keeperoo, I think, easily with this setup. If you start getting too micro with your actual players, I think you're setting yourself up to potentially mess it up and screw up your lineup. So I think you're going to want to have 2 scrub defenders, 3 solid guys on your bench, and just let the highest points come on in. If something happens, if you're able to see that one of your bench players is amazing and you're comfortable scrubbing a guy on your field to force all 3 to come in, go for it. Go for it if you feel comfortable only seeing 1 game. But I think this is a auto-roo week, not a switcheroo week. The only other name I'll throw out there, we had a question about Philadelphia. Are they a must-have? I don't know. I like them. I like them a lot. They're going up against Columbus with their first home game, who has not been doing amazing, but they still definitely have pieces there that if they fire, they can fire. But they're definitely a solid defense to go up against Columbus. Their second game is at Chicago, and that's betting against Chicago doing something at home. So, which super disappointed that MLS is Johnny on the spot with getting in the the Columbus logo, but we don't have that much better Chicago Fire logo loaded in here. Let's fix this.
The women's logo too. Copied it.
It's better than what
so much better.
It's so much better. So
Oh
much
my
better.
gosh.
Sorry, that was apparently we do in circles. If any graphic designers, if you want to do an MLS Fantasy Boss logo as a circle, apparently that's what we're doing now. So.
Yep.
Can have some fun with that. But no, I like Philadelphia. I think it's a very reasonable team to put in there. They've got a good shot against Columbus with their form being down. They've got a good shot on the road against Chicago with their form being down. I don't think they're on the middle end of clean sheets, or maybe the bottom upper third. Head over to MLS Fantasy Stats. He's got some clean sheet chances. I believe those are out now. I know Ryan was working on getting those things out there. So head over there and take a look at those if you want to see who has statistically some of the better shots at clean sheets. Philly's up there. Wagner, Elliott, some of those guys. I think we have some good options. If you're not going to go with one of them, you could look at the Seattle players. You have some different options of what you can go with. I like the attackers. And I'm just, like I said, I'm going 3 defenders, and that's it.
39% chance, Ryan says, at a clean sheet.
Oh, that's worse than I thought. I thought they were like 54 or something for at least getting 1 clean sheet.
This is the home game.
Okay. There is there not a combined chance of getting a clean sheet out of 2? There usually is.
I might just be looking at the wrong graphic of this. Sorry. Here we go. 2 games, 54% chance for 1 clean sheet.
Yeah, I thought it was
They're 5th on the list.
5th on the list. Seattle's up there. Who else do we got? Just rattle us off the top 5.
Seattle, Nashville, NYCFC, Toronto, Philly, Orlando, LAFC.
That's a Cincinnati pick. That's the anti-Cincy right there. So there we go. There's the top teams according to the stats.
Stats don't lie, though, Reid. I'm real sorry.
I know. It's okay. It is what it is. Let's move on to the midfielders. Ashley, who are you looking at? And the consensus?
Yeah, I think it's always pick up Heel. I think we can all agree on that at least, right? Always have him in your team. I like Heel. I like Pozuelo, but I'm worried about rotation. I don't know how fit he is. He played, right? But is he going to get rotated on a double? I don't know. So I kind of want to look into that a little bit more. But I do like him this week. He looked great. Leo had an off week this past week. He only had minutes played. But that is so uncharacteristic of him that I'm going to give him another shot. I didn't have him this week, but still. I like Nashville's games and matchups, so I am looking at him. I also like Maxie Morales, but for the same reason, I'm a little nervous about him going both games because he too is working his way back from fitness, and so I just don't. I want him, but I hate kind of getting worked over on that. He did go full 90, so it's just something to pay attention to. I also am kind of into Nani this week. He's hard to tell for me. Orlando's a little unpredictable. And then I'm also kind of toying back and forth with Joao Paulo and Prilak. Kind of like Blayne said, I can only have 3 Seattle players, and I can't decide where I want them. And if I decide to go goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, I like Joao Paulo this week. His set pieces have been phenomenal. That's how he picked up his assist last week. So we'll just see between those 8 guys I just listed for you. It's too many.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm in the same situation you are. I think there's a lot of midfielders that I'm really looking at this week, and it's kind of hard to bring them down. Blayne.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I had a list about as long as my arm of midfielders I wanted. I settled on 5 for the show, and Heel and Nani were 2 easy includes. I really think Orlando has got one of the easiest double schedules you can have, hosting San Jose and going to Miami. I think offensively, if you're going to look at a double game week team for offense only, Orlando has to be in that conversation. So I think Nani really kind of bumps up to a must own given what he can do. Hosting San Jose, who can give up a lot of goals, and then going to Miami, who is just in shambles right now. I don't know. I don't see how you can just avoid that one. I like JP. Seattle's been so good at home. They're just that team that you have to keep an eye on, and his average is too good to pass up. Where it gets a little tricky is I like Busio with the double home game. I really think you don't want to pass up double home. I think Busio's ceiling is a little bit lower until he starts scoring, though. And he hasn't been scoring lately. No goals, no assists recently, but he's getting 8s and 9s on that. So I'll take the 8 and the 9. He's not priced out where he's competing with some of these super premium players. I think let me double check him. Yeah, Busio's still 8.7. He's still sub 9 and giving you 8s and 9s in a lot of games. I think you can pretty much bank on an 8 or a 9 in this because he's been playing the 6 a lot more and picking up those bonus points. I'll roll with him. And then I've got Paz in there. I think Pozuelo is just, if he's back, I think they're going to run with him. But I think he's a little bit of a rotation risk. I don't know how much, but I think I like these matchups, especially if he's starting that first game. Isn't that the first game's Nashville, but you get that Cincy game on Saturday. If he's going to rest, I would expect him to rest on the road at Nashville and then play against Cincy.
You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's never how they do it, but you would expect that. Right?
Yeah. And, if he rests in that first game, you almost want to take him knowing he's going to get that second game and play, and that Cincy game is what you really want from him. So that's up in the air. But then I like Krylock a lot. Not the easiest schedule going to Seattle, but hosting Houston's a pretty decent shout. He's been really good. Leal is another one that I think he's overperformed all season, but he's been doing it for so long. Maybe this is his new normal, and it's going to be really hard to take him off of a lineup if you've got him, if you're feeling good. I don't know what to make of a lot of this, and then the two big names that are going to be out there, and I've seen him in chat a little bit, Monteiro, and chat was great to say he's on yellow card warning. So if he picks up a yellow in that Columbus game, he's not playing game 2. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an instant take him out of your lineup moment. I think there's too many other good options to risk a yellow card in the first game and not getting that second game. And Columbus's defense is too good to really want to go full in on Philly attack. I think you have a better shot at going with somebody like a JP that has a little more offensive potential. And then Maxie Morales is the other one. I know you guys put him down as a consensus pick, but his last game was the first time he had gone 90 since round 3. He missed 2 games and he went 22 and 47 minutes after that. I think he's a huge rotation risk this week. I doubt he plays. I mean, it is at home, but I doubt he goes more than about I doubt he goes more than 120. Atlanta's defense is okay. DC's defense is looking better and better all the time. I don't know if there's going to be easy goals to be had, and if he goes 60 and out in both games, or if he does a 90 and a 30, it's just where's he going to find the rhythm? Which team is he going to do it against? I just don't know what to make of that. So I've seen the name pop up in chat. I think Jesus Medina is probably your better midfield pick if you want to go with New York City. He's scored goals this season. He's had a good showing. I think he's more likely to go that 180, for sure 120, but I think he's more likely to go 180, and I think he's where a lot of the playmaking comes from. So if you want a midfielder, I would take Medina over Morales if I'm looking New York City, which I'm really not this week.
He does come in higher as well than the Morales, actually, because of some of his success. As far as the Pozuelo conversations that we've had, I don't care if Pozuelo gets rested the first game. I only want him for the Cincinnati game. With our double game week format, of course, I will hit that again. You only get the highest points, and so because of that, I only want him for the Cincinnati game. So I don't care about that rotation. And I would agree. You would think that that's the rotation. Of course, I don't believe Toronto's playing in Toronto still yet, so it's not a huge trip to head down to Nashville, but still it is a trip to take. So and we can see, and he may be back because I mean he's been worked back in. It may just be, hey, you've played one game, you've got 2 more in you, you're fine. Who knows? But we've got that there. I like what you said about Busio Blayne. I think that's the good point to make, is that his floor seems very high right now, and that's good for going into this double game week, both being at home. I toyed with Paolo actually here. Did I want to have him? Is Rui Diaz enough for me? And I'm on the fence because adding him actually made me 0.2 over for my sort of first pick initial lineup when I went through. So that's going to take some retooling if I want to get him in, which I may end up, because like I said, it's a really good matchup. I love the Nani pick. I think that's the thing too, is if people go back and look at Nani's full profile, they've seen that he's gone down some in points. Those 2 big goose eggs that he has, those are from his red card that he got. That was when he was missing those games. He had a poor game against DC where he's number 3, but otherwise he's gotten a 10, an 11, a 7, got a 6 coming right back off that with that goal. So I mean, he's got points in him. Going up against San Jose and Miami, I do really like Nani's chances right there. Kralik is that one. I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess I should have gone with him last week over Zella Rayon because he did get the goal. He's on some good form. I don't know. That's the one I'm still struggling with. Away at Seattle is rough, and you're really banking on the Houston game. And I don't know if I want to bank on the Houston game because I haven't really felt like I want to always bet against Houston this week or this year. So, like, that game doesn't jump out at me as like, yes, have to bet against. Yeah. Leo's one that's on that chopping block for me. I think you are right. He's hitting above where you would expect. He's also not playing full 90s, so he is likely not going to be a 120 player for you. He does seem to get some rotation, so he might not maximize those points for you. Let's see here. Anybody else looking over at chat to see who else has been mentioned? We already talked before how, as far as Zelleraon goes, not really looking at him. You can look again at some of those we'll get to the switcheroo pick, some of those value players if you want. I think a lot of us have strong budgets at this point where we can really drop in some big points, and I think this midfield is where you can do it. Busio is, I think, a great value player at sub 9. It may end up being some of the defenders that you get, or maybe you can save some money on a forward depending on who you like on that side. But I think the midfield,
I want to throw out one more name while we're here, just because we're talking big budget, but if you're going big in a lot of places and want somebody cheap, I think there's one name we've overlooked just a hair.
Sure.
And that's Stojanovic from Chicago. If he starts that first game, it's at home versus Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
He has gotten some rotation. He has been in and out, but like a couple weeks ago against Miami, he played 31 minutes and got a goal. He's been scoring okay this year, and then he played at home against Montreal and got a 5 without a goal or an assist, and then he got 45 minutes against the Crew. So it's a double home for Chicago. Chat is now talking about
Molino.
Philly potentially going heavy in the first game and playing all out against Chicago, and then rotating on the back end when they have a little bit easier matchup.
You feel like go up against Columbus and playing all out?
Yeah, going up against Columbus and playing all out, and then taking Chicago on that second game and rotating a little more.
Sure.
Because it's a little easier game. And that makes a lot of sense. That could be the way they want to play it. You go beat your competition and then do that. But it's Chicago double home, and Stojanovic is still 6.1. I mean, he's not one of those top names we're looking at, but if you need a super budget pick in your midfield, I think he's the double home player that we've overlooked the most this week. And they've got Cincinnati as that first game. So if you see him starting that first game at 6.1, that's not a bad risk to take, especially for your bench.
Yeah. Nope. Pretty good. All right. Anybody want to comment on Molino before we move on to forwards? had that name pop up in chat a couple times.
Kevin Molino? I did not.
Yes,
I have no comment.
He's supposed to be close to back, if not back, and ready to go. But given his injury history, I would say he's 30 minutes both games at most. I don't see them throwing him in the way they've been playing. They've got other players that are doing well. Luis Diaz is one of those guys that I like on the wing. A lot of times we don't play him enough in fantasy. He doesn't get consistent enough points, but as an MLS thing, he's playing really well for them and gives them a lot. So I don't see Molino supplanting him right away until he's 90 minutes fit every game. So I would say 60 minutes at most for Molino this week.
Yeah, I just don't think you try to catch fire week one with someone back from injury, right? Like, especially on a double. We don't know what to expect from him with fantasy yet this year, so I think there are a lot of other options. I wouldn't even consider him a differential currently, maybe in a week or so. I don't know if that's something to look at for this week at least.
Yeah, and best case with Molino is you see him start game one at Philly. Like,
right.
Do you take any unproven winger for the season on the road at Philly, not knowing what the rotation risk on the second one is? If it was the first game at Austin, maybe, but at Philly, there's no way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to our forwards. Let's see here. Blayne, I don't think you've gotten to start yet.
No.
Yeah. Forwards was actually really easy for me this week, and I broke your consensus picks, Reid, but that's fine.
You did. This is what happens when you don't do it on time.
Yes. Rui Diaz is the consensus pick. You're taking him if you're going two defenders, you're taking Rui Diaz. If you're going a midfielder if you're going two attacking players for Seattle, you're taking Rui Diaz and a midfielder. Like, it's Rui Diaz or bust this week in the Seattle lineup. And then I like Pulido. 2 games at home. LAFC's defense is not the greatest. Colorado's defense is stout. I will give them that. I think you're taking Pulido more for the second game. But he got, on the weekend game, he got a 5 without a goal or an assist. He is finding his form and picking up those bonus points that Reid covets so much from forwards.
Yup.
You've got 2 chances with a guy. I think he's going to go 180 or close to it. I don't think he's going to be coming out much early unless the game's totally in hand, and then you're likely getting points from him other ways. So I'm going Pulido. I think the bonus points are there. Chat's hitting me up, Pulido or Russell. I think Russell's more of a rotation risk given his injuries this season. I could see him starting both games for sure. I like the way Pulido's playing, and I think on double game weeks, and this is just an in general for me this year, for double game weeks, you take your more boom or bust guys because they only have to hit on one game to really pay off. And I think Sporting's got the matchups they want this week, that you're going to go for the boom or bust with Pulido rather than try to bank on Russell's kind of more regular performances and picking up those bonus points. Because regardless of what Russell does, unless he scores a brace, Pulido's more likely to get a brace, and you're looking for that. So I tend to take boom or bust players here, which leads into my third one, and where I said earlier, I think they've got the best offensive double game week you can get, and I'm going with Tesho Akindele as my third one, which breaks your consensus picks. He's an easy bench option. He's cheaper, and I think both San Jose and Miami offer a lot of chances for Orlando to score, and Tesho has had a good run of form lately. Pulling up him really quick. I can't remember if it's 2 in the last 3 or 3 in the last 4. Yeah, it's 2 goals in the last 3 and 3 assists in the last 4 for him. Like, Orlando's not going to be rotating a guy out like that. Now, he got a goal and assist versus Toronto and played 64 minutes, but he got 10 points in 64 minutes. So if he's doing that and getting rotated because they're at that point in the game, that's fine. I just think 2 and 3 and 3 and 4.
It's 3 and 7. He's gotten 3 assists overall this year. So
But
round 2, round 5, round 6. So different in games. If you're looking at different games, he's gotten.
Tesho's got an assist in round 5, round 7, and at round 8.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at Akinola.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
My bad.
Yeah, Akinola's been solid, but no, Tesho's run of form recently has just been on point. I think you've got to throw him on your bench at 7.3. It frees up money for some of the big forwards, the big midfielders. This is a huge cost savings for you, and it's probably the best offensive week you can get for a double game week team, besides maybe Seattle's double home. What's not to love about this pick?
I mean, sure, if you want to go with Tesho over Nani, whatever you want to go with,
I'm taking both.
With that, or you can go with both, yeah, depending on how you want to do that. I think, well, Ashley, who are your picks?
I like Rui Diaz for all the reasons that Blayne said. I also like Tesho. I'm not as emphatic about it as Blayne is, but I like him. I like Tati Castellanos. He had a real off week this last week with a PK draw and a missed PK or a saved PK or whatever. But I just like their matchup. I can't tell if he's starting to slip in form or not, but I still like him in the like I said, the matchups that he's in. I'd also seen a little bit earlier today people talking about Chicharito, and so I thought about it. He does have 2 good matchups. He's playing Vancouver, awful defense, probably worst or second to worst, right? And that game is going to be at RSL. It's not actually up in Vancouver. And then he's playing at San Jose, which is always filled with goals, right? That Cali Clasico always has goals. But the only times that Chicharito has really been shut out this year was his road games in Seattle and in Portland, and then versus San Jose the last time they played, which was round 7. So I don't know. On paper he should be, with the matchups, a good pick, but I just don't have the gumption to do it. And then I'm also, I don't know how I feel about Polito. Obviously Blayne would know better than I do, but from a non-SKC perspective, I feel like Vermees always rotates on double game weeks, like habitually, unpredictably. And so having Polito having just been at international duty, he's not hurt or banged up or anything, but I just always get really worried when it comes to double game weeks with these SKC midfield and strikers. So I do also think that Johnny Russell is more likely to get rotated, but I get nervous when it comes to Peter Vermees because he just doesn't care about MLS fantasy and he rotates people with no care in the world. So I do like the SKC games. I don't like them as much as some of the other double home teams. So for me, it's going to be Tati, Rui, and Tesho.
Yeah, you're getting some flack from Cameron in chat, and it's.
Go back. Historically,
I'm kind of laughing. Vermees is horrible with rotation. Yeah, he's the guy that we've had. There's a Fire Vermees thread that comes up every year in the culture, and it's
I'm not
largely
going that far with it.
Yeah, but no, it's largely based on him not using his subs and refusing to rotate. We used 1 sub last week. Like, that's how bad it is. Vermees never rotates his squad. He likes to stick with it. And I will say, historically, this season, we started the first couple of weeks without Polito, and we played without him. It's when he went to international duty that we started putting Shelton up top as the striker. Before that, we played Busio as a false 9. Like, I understand the rotation warnings, and that's why I say watch for. Shallowy's a rotation.